this tutorial, we are going to learn how to take an image and put text over it using layer masks, and we're also going to put a border. We're going to change black and white and use a little color dodge. So we have some things we need to do. First thing you need to do is select an image. Please make sure it's a high quality image. And I also would suggest maybe making sure things are not cut off. The one I selected does have the top part of his head cut off, but the way I'm laying it out, it's absolutely fine because I'm going to make sure I stretch it all the way to the top. Okay, so I have selected this image, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have a good selection in here. I have already did a little bit of selection, and I saved a selection, and I am going to go ahead and pull that up. I called it Bruce, and I'm going to apply a layer mask to that. Okay, the reason I went ahead and did this is because I did go in here with my select and mask tool, and I made sure everything was, really done pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and say okay when I'm done, and I then am going to need to make a new document for my image. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say File, New. For this particular project, we are going to use a print document. You can use either 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. Either way is absolutely fine. We're going to call this To Project, and then our last name, first name. I'm going to go ahead and make it, because I do know I want a black background, so I'm just going to go ahead and make my background content black, and I'm going to say Create. Now I'm going to take my image, excuse the fact that I have two of them here. I'm going to take this one here, and I am going to grab my Move tool, and I'm going to simply move it from here into my project 2. Now I am going to want to make sure that I go ahead and expand out my image all the way. It's going to have to be really big. If your image is super blurry, you may want to you definitely may want to pick a different image. Now mine looks really blurry here, but if I check mark it, it does it still has a little bit of noise, but we're going to make it black and white and it should be okay. Okay, next thing I want to do is I need to know where half of this image is. So I'm going to do my text, obviously from the either from the left or right. So I do need to grab a guide, and I'm going to pull my guide over to half of this sheet of paper. So 8.5 divided by 2 is 4.25. So I'm going to put my guide at 4.25. I do want his center of his face to be about there, so I'm going to maybe move this over just a smidgen. I noticed that he's kind of at an angle, so I might leave a little bit more on the left than on the right. Okay, and again, it should be close to center. Okay, after I get this placed, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm going to make sure I am on white text. And I'm going to choose a very simple, I want a simple sans serif font. Okay, I typically my go-to is like Impact. I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to draw. Typically, I don't like to draw text boxes, but in this case, I do want to, because I want to constrain it to this area. And then I'm simply going to type out my lines. Now, one of the things I do want to mention is I do want this all in capital letters. Okay, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So if you type it out and you did not have capital letters, okay, like mine was not on capital, you could go over here to your character panel and click the capital. Okay, and you can get this by hitting to the right of this warping tool. There is the character and paragraph. It's very easy to do it that way, or you can go up here to window and turn on your character or paragraph panel here. Okay, so once I get that in here, I am going to go ahead and increase my size. So I'm gonna start increasing my size because I do want it to go all the way down. Now, as soon as I get this far, I'm at 67, I realize that Springsteen is starting to hover over into 2 lanes, okay? So that can be a little bit of a problem. But I'm gonna still keep going just a little bit. I'm gonna go maybe up to, let's go up to 70, let's go about 75, 74, we'll go 74. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to adjust the leading. So I'm gonna have to go through all of this. I want it a lot closer together. And then I determined that, Springsteen is on 2 lines. So what can I do about that? Well, I can go down here and I can actually just highlight Bruce Springsteen. And maybe I can make that just a little bit smaller since it is the creator, okay, of who we're talking about. Maybe I'll make that just a tad bit smaller. So I'm going to take this down until Springsteen, oops, wrong one. Actually, it would help if I had the size. I'll go down to maybe about 60. I'm going to have to go lower than that. I'm down at 57, which is fine, okay? I'm going to have to go a little bit lower because we're going to put a border in here. So I'm going to go down to about 52. Okay, now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the leading on this is adjusted as well. Since I just made some changes there, I'm going to have to adjust that leading. Go. And I'm going to go ahead and I actually decided I want to make this a little bit taller. So I'm going to adjust my my vertical scaling. So I'm going to go up to about let's go up to about 139. Sometimes it makes it look a little wonky, but I need some depth here. So again, I'm just playing around with my text, which then this means I'm going to have to adjust my Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to move it a little bit away from the center, just a little bit, just a smidgen. But again, we're going to have a border around here, so you can't have this butting up to the edge either. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab the rectangle tool. I want a black rectangle and I'm going to put that right up below the text. So I'm going to go below the text and I'm going to just draw a black rectangle, something like that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and adjust my image color. So let's hide these two. I want to make this a black and white image. So I'm going to go to my adjustment layers and I'm going to hit black and white. I am then going to go show back my rectangle and my text. And I'm going to select my text. Now I'm going to be on my text layer. I'm going to hold my command key down and I'm simply going to click on the T over here and it's going to select all my text. I'm going to go down to my rectangle tool, or I'm sorry, my rectangle layer, and I'm going to hold my option key down and I'm going to click my mask. Now what that's going to do is that's going to do an inverse mask. So if I hide this top one, this top layer of the type, it is going to actually hide my selection. Okay, now if yours did not do that, that meant you did not hold your Alt or Option key down. Okay, now you can change that. So if I go down here and I click on my mask and my rectangle and I Command I, that will inverse it. Okay, so what is black will become white and what is white will become black. But I do want it to be showing through. Once I get that done, I realize that some of this, like I'm not going to be able to see because it goes out into, if I hide this, it goes out here into the black. So what I also might want to do is actually on my back, right above my black background layer, I might want to go ahead and put a white rectangle. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to fill this one with white. I'm going to put a white rectangle here. Okay. Now you will be able to see, you can't start a fire without a spark. Okay. Now you still can't see some of this, and that's partly on him. So what can I do about that? Well, we're going to go above. We're going to go where we're on my black and white layer, and I'm going to add a levels layer. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to add another adjustment layer, and I'm going to add levels. Now, the easiest way to kind of get this to start working is to just maybe bump up my black just a smidgen. Don't bump it up too much because it'll start to get really white. So we don't want that. We just want to bump it up just enough that we're taking away some of the total darkness. Okay, if this is a problem. Some of you may not have that problem. Now, I can also go down to my image, okay? I'm actually physically on my image, and I am going to make sure that it is not a smart object. So if it is a smart object, you are going to need to click on it. You're going to need to go to layer, and you're going to need to rasterize your layer. Okay, so go down here, rasterize, but obviously mine's already rasterized, so I'm good. Okay, next thing I'm going to do in order to bring this back, I am going to find my dodge tool. It's over here at the left. And as you hover over this, you can see it's taking this dog and it's taking a little bit something that's a little bit dark, and it's making it a little bit more light. So I'm going to use my dodge tool, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger because I want to do this quickly. I'm going to put my exposure about 75. And I'm going to go over top of these, and hopefully it will kind of bring out some of those darker areas. You don't want to do too much, but you can do a little bit. And if you need to, you can go back in with your levels, bump it up maybe just a smidgen more.